As the man stepped out of the car, something struck him. He hadn't taken more than a few steps when he felt a warm sensation spreading across his neck. He staggered home, desperate for one last look at his daughter, but she was sleeping too soundly to hear him call. He died there on the floor, lost to blood loss. The following morning, his colleague Lao Ma arrived with a birthday cake. He hadn't even reached the top of the stairwell when he noticed blood on the steps. A sense of dread took hold. He pushed open the door to find the man lying motionless on the floor beside the cake. His little girl had no concept of death to her. Father had simply fallen asleep from exhaustion. Faced with the scene before him, Lao Ma stood helpless for a moment before slowly crouching beside the child and speaking to her in the gentlest voice he could manage. The assassin Xiao Yuan was a ruthless man. He had grown up alongside his childhood friend Chao, the two of them sharing a disturbing bond. They had tortured and killed stray animals together as boys, and graduated to murder as adults, becoming a pair of close accomplices. Chao had always harbored feelings for Xiao Yuan's girlfriend, and after years of silent longing, he finally acted on them. But the affair was short-lived. Xiao Yuan discovered the betrayal and, when the two were together at a hotel, killed them both without mercy. Consumed by rage upon learning of the murders, Chao reported Xiao Yuan to the authorities and pinned every killing the two had committed together solely on him. The lack of hard evidence, however, resulted in a sentence of only 15 years, a verdict the victims' families found wholly unacceptable. The courtroom erupted into chaos as relatives charged at Xiao Yuan, trying to beat him to death with their bare hands. Among them stood a small girl Lily, motionless amid the turmoil, saying nothing, only staring at Xiao Yuan's face and burning his features into her memory. 15 years passed. The moment Xiao Yuan walked out of prison, a block of tofu struck him squarely on the back of the head. Lao Ma watched with thinly veiled contempt. His hatred of Xiao Yuan went beyond the loss of his former squad leader. It stemmed from what had become of little Lily. After her father's death, she had been taken in by her mother, but the man her mother married was a violent alcoholic who subjected both of them to regular abuse. The trauma left Lily with autism from an early age. She now spent her days doing basic cleaning work at the police station. Upon learning of Xiao Yuan's release, Lao Ma began to devise a plan. He intended to mimic Xiao Yuan's killing methods and frame him for new murders, thereby manufacturing the evidence needed to have him sentenced to death. As it happened, on the very night of his release, Xiao Yuan checked into a hotel and hired a sex worker. Afterward, she returned to the car and complained to her partner, but the man paid her little mind and tried to shut her up before urgently excusing himself to use the bathroom. What he didn't know was that he had already been marked. Just as Lily moved in to act, someone entered the space unexpectedly, forcing her to pull back. The newcomer turned out to be a sociable sort who insisted on toasting Xiao Yuan's associate at length, infuriating him. When the man finally left, he paused to rinse off a knife orderly habits, even for someone in his line of work. The woman waiting in the car had no idea her partner had been killed. Chao wasted no time, dispatching her with an umbrella. Lily witnessed everything, left to wonder who had beaten her to it. When police arrived the next morning, the two bodies and the cardboard wounds consistent with Xiao Yuan's known methods. He was brought in for questioning. Facing Lao Ma, he was entirely composed. He had been in his room watching films all night, he said, and could write a full review if it would help. Lao Ma responded with a quiet smile. Xiao Yuan couldn't resist a taunt. The more desperately they searched, the less they would find. Lao Ma answered with a kick and ordered him released. Xiao Yuan walked straight into Lily on his way out. He helped her up without warmth, noticed a badge on her indicating she was a person with disabilities, and dismissed her with a contemptuous glance before walking away. That same night, Lily's stepfather beat her mother and headed out for a night on the town. Lily blocked his path. He tried to brush her off, but she held on. The following morning, Xiao Yuan went for a run and found a crowd gathered around something on the road. He moved closer, curious someone had been killed, using methods identical to his own. Before he could process this, he spotted a figure watching from a distance. He moved to close the gap, but she was quick and agile, losing him on a downhill stretch. He stumbled into a park and finally lost her trail altogether. Lily's mother arrived at the station to identify a body. Lao Ma vented to his colleague about the inability to make an arrest. The reply was blunt. Xiao Yuan hadn't been caught in the act, and without substantial physical evidence, their hands were tied. Elsewhere, Chao straightened his clothes. It was time to pay Xiao Yuan a visit. He slipped into Xiao Yuan's building, eased the door open without a sound, drew a knife, and crept toward the bed. But something felt off. He threw back the covers empty. He turned toward the bathroom. The two were a breath away from a confrontation when Lao Ma showed up at the door and threw the whole thing off. Xiao Yuan emerged from the back, his expression cold and lethal. Lao Ma glanced at the bed, no blood. In reality, Chao had flattened himself behind the open door. Lao Ma spun around, but he was already gone. Back home, Lily opened her door to an empty apartment. She moved through the rooms and found her mother in the bedroom. She had taken an overdose. Lily stood frozen, staring at the photograph on the table, then at the broken picture frame still in her mother's hand. She slowly lowered herself to the floor beside her. That night, Xiao Yuan was eating instant noodles when Lao Ma came and sat beside him. The sight of the man eating in perfect tranquility was maddening. Lao Ma appended an entire jar of chili container and all into Xiao Yuan's bowl. Xiao Yuan didn't flinch and downed it without a word. Seeing no reaction, Lao Ma turned to verbal provocation, trying to goad him into lashing out. Instead, Xiao Yuan made a single offhand remark about the past that cut straight through Lao Ma's composure. Meanwhile, Lily was going over her case notes on the floor when something didn't add up. The wounds on each victim were different. Some had been stabbed through, others had their throats cut. There had always been two killers. On the investigative side, police pulled Xiao Yuan's phone records and found he had been trying to locate Chao ever since his release. Lao Ma had his team pull background files and cross-reference them both both men had grown up in the same orphanage, and Hee-joo was the one who had originally reported Xiao Yuan. Digging deeper, Lao Ma established that Xiao Yuan's victim 15 years ago had been killed for infidelity, and shortly after her death, Xiao Yuan had been turned in. Since his release, he had been hunting Hee-joo obsessively, which meant he understood exactly what had happened and was after revenge. Lao Ma called an immediate briefing, put protection around Hee-joo, keep Xiao Yuan under surveillance, and arrest him the moment he made a move. By this point, Xiao Yuan's own investigation had led him to Hee-joo's location. The sudden visit left Hee-joo visibly unnerved, his hand tightened around the knife at his side. Xiao Yuan approached without any urgency and delivered his final warning before leaving. The words echoed in Hee-joo's head all the way home, dulling his awareness of his surroundings. When the power in his apartment suddenly cut out, he thought little of it and walked toward the bedroom. Lily had set her trap. Hee-joo was dealt with on the spot. Across town, Xiao Yuan had just showered and was getting ready for bed when something on the mattress caught his eye. He pulled back the sheet to find a body of face wrapped in plastic. When he tore it away, he was looking at Hee-joo. Before he could react, Lily lunged from behind and drove a knife into his ribs, paralyzing him. She then looped a dog chain around his neck and pulled until he went limp. The murder weapon, the body, and the suspect all in the same room. The case appeared airtight. When Xiao Yuan came to, he could hear sirens. In the seconds before Lao Ma burst through the door, he vanished from the room. Following the blood trail, Lao Ma was certain he hadn't gotten far and sent officers to sweep every floor. When one of them pushed open a door, they found two people in a bathtub. A woman collapsed across a man. Emergency responders worked frantically in the ambulance, though their attention was split between the two patients. Lao Ma sat on the bed, trying to work out where Xiao Yuan could possibly have gone. Then he noticed it, blood seeping out from beneath the mattress. He threw it aside, but the person underneath was already dead. On the ambulance, Xiao Yuan slowly turned his head, startling the woman into trembling. He gestured for her silence, knocked the paramedic unconscious, picked up a pair of scissors, and climbed out of the gurney. As the woman begged for her life, he calmly pulled the scissors apart and drove one blade into her abdomen. When he withdrew it, blood soaked everything around him. 3 more dead. Xiao Yuan at large. A wanted notice was issued immediately, but forensics came back with a complication. Hee-joo had not been killed by Xiao Yuan, and Xiao Yuan had a verified alibi for the time of death. The other 2 victims yielded no traceable evidence either. There was no legal basis for conviction. Faced with his own wanted poster, Xiao Yuan chose to go on the offensive. He called a reporter from a public phone and released a statement proclaiming his innocence. Lily, who had assumed Xiao Yuan was already in custody, had spent the interim cheerfully knitting scarves to donate to a charity. Then she spotted a newspaper someone had left in the lobby. The headline told her Xiao Yuan was not only free, but actively working to clear his name. Rage flooded through her. She would make sure he faced justice herself. Xiao Yuan sat alone, turning the question over in his mind. Who exactly was this girl? Their interactions had given him very little to work with. He went to an internet cafe to dig up her background. What he found made everything fall into place. The victim found dead in the park was her stepfather, and the girl herself was the biological daughter of the squad leader killed at the beginning. She had been hunting him all along to avenge her father. The cafe owner noticed someone smoking and went over to remind him it wasn't permitted, only to be stopped cold by Xiao Yuan's stare. As he backed away, it suddenly hit him this man was a wanted fugitive. Lao Ma arrived quickly after the call came in. The owner confirmed the seat. Lao Ma moved in for the arrest and found nothing but a lit cigarette and a logged-out screen. Knowing he couldn't have gone far, Lao Ma drew his weapon and ordered everyone against the wall, then moved down the row examining faces one by one. Xiao Yuan struck without warning, slamming him onto a table. Outside, the young officer on watch was on a phone call when he saw Xiao Yuan coming too green to react in time. He was shoved into a car and stabbed before he could fight back. Lao Ma immediately radioed headquarters and reported his vehicle stolen. Checkpoints went up across every route. Xiao Yuan drove Lao Ma's car straight into the police station's own parking lot without a second glance. Lily was heading home when she spotted him. Tonight, she decided, was the night. Xiao Yuan slipped into the duty room and ran into a newly transferred officer. He lied that he was a detective and needed to pull Lily's home address. The officer hesitated. Just as Xiao Yuan braced for exposure, the officer suddenly felt an inexplicable chill at the back of his neck and wordlessly complied. Xiao Yuan found the address. She was still living in the same place as before. He pressed the doorbell with the tip of his knife. The corridor lights went out. They fought in the dark. When word reached the station that Xiao Yuan had gone after Lily, every available officer mobilized. She was their squad leader's daughter. Nothing could happen to her. Lily broke free and ran for the hill behind the building. Xiao Yuan was right behind her. He caught her on the bridge, pinning her down, but rather than finish it there, he yanked her upright and began dragging her back, intending to deal with her elsewhere. He hadn't counted on the knife she had hidden in her bag. She pulled it free and called Lao Ma, relaying her exact location before breaking into a run again. She had underestimated Xiao Yuan's endurance. He closed the distance quickly. She ran again. The long chase drained what little strength she had left. By the time Xiao Yuan caught up with her, Lily was sitting on a swing, moving slowly back and forth. She pumped higher and higher, until she hooked the chain over the collar still around her neck. Under Xiao Yuan's bewildered gaze, she let go. The police arrived moments too late. An officer tackled Xiao Yuan to the ground. Lao Ma rushed to Lily's side and held her, the warmth not yet fully gone from her body as grief overwhelmed him. She had completed her revenge with her own life. In the season when she should have been coming into full bloom, she closed her eyes forever.